Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you so much for being here. Your time matters, especially right now. So we know that you're heading into Q4 under real pressure because costs are rising, platforms are more saturated, and proving ROI is getting more difficult. So you're being asked to do more with less certainty, and that's exactly why we built this playbook. Over the next hour, you're going to get a practical step-by-step guide for winning on Pinterest this festive season. What to do, when to do it, and how to make every pound in your budget work harder. And don't worry, we're going to leave some time for questions at the end. But some quick housekeeping before we jump in. Your mics are muted, but the Q&A box is live, and also we're recording. So you're going to have the replay and the slides at the end of the session. Let's get started. First, here's who's with you today. You have myself, Kaylee, a senior client partner based out of London. I have Craig also, who's a senior industry manager heading up home retail, and Josie, who's one of our amazing senior creative strategists. Every single day, we work with advertisers of all sizes, from SMEs to the largest enterprise clients, and we hear your top Q4 questions constantly. So this webinar is our answer to all of them all at once. And this is how we're going to spend our time today. So think of this as your Q4 playbook from now through to the peak of the festive season. We're going to close with Josie talking us through a practical action plan for the next 30 days. And we don't need to tell you why Q4 matters because you're already orienting your biggest budgets right now and facing increased competition across every single channel. So you know the stakes. What we're here to talk to you about today is what Q4 looks like on Pinterest and why our audience is uniquely built to win in Q4. So the Pinterest shopper is different. They're often arriving early and planning with a purpose. They're looking for ideas, for products, and for inspiration that they can actually use. And they're comparing options visually. They're also doing this along a much longer decision journey. And it's that early planning behavior that makes Pinterest especially valuable during the festive season. Because festive shoppers don't just go from impression to purchase in one step. They're discovering ideas, then they compare options, and they act when the timing is right for them. And Pinterest can help support in all three steps of that journey. That means that your festive strategy shouldn't rely on just one campaign or one type of message. The goal is to move with the shopper as their intent gets stronger. But one of the biggest mistakes that advertisers make is treating Q4 like one big festive campaign because we know that shoppers just don't act that way. So on Pinterest, people move through a series of planning and shopping moments. Halloween, Cyber 5, gift giving occasions, New Year's, Q5, and they all show up completely differently. So each one needs its own timing, its own message, and its own campaign pressure. If you only show up at the peak, starting in October, you're going to miss that window when people are still deciding. And these are the long windows of opportunity that give you the runway that you need to capture shoppers early in their planning phases. The brands that win big in the festive season are usually not the ones that start in October. They're the ones that use the months before peak to get ready. So they're building their signals early, they test creatives before costs rise, and they build audiences that they can then retarget later. Because starting early doesn't just help you launch on time, it helps you enter the peak season with more confidence and less guesswork. So let's choose our path because not every advertiser is starting from the same place, and that's completely okay. So, are you a new advertiser? Are you an advertiser looking to unlock more consistent results? Or are you an advertiser building momentum ahead of peak season? There's no wrong answer here, but what matters is really understanding your path and therefore the right solution for you. So let's take a moment and honestly assess which path describes you. The first path is for advertisers who are new to Pinterest. Your priority is to build and to lay a clean foundation first. Next up, we have the rebuild path for advertisers who have run campaigns before but want to unlock more consistent results. So your advantage is that you already have data, but now it's time to rebuild and to use it. Finally, for an advertiser that's building momentum ahead of peak season, the final path is for those who are already active and consistent, and your job is to scale. So you want to sharpen what's working and simplify before Q4 hits. So we're going to walk through all three, but just pay closest attention to the one that matches your situation. So, if you're a new advertiser, your goal right now is to build a clean foundation rather than a complicated account structure. So start with just one campaign, one ad group, and a small set of creative variations. Even a modest, steady budget can help you build useful signals before demand rises and costs increase over the festive season. So, what you can do is use this summer to learn what resonates, create consistency, and avoid going into Q4 cold, because the goal is to make sure that you're ready when Q4 arrives. If you're an advertiser ready to unlock more consistent results, you're in rebuild mode, and your advantage is that you have history to learn from. So before launching something new, look closely at what worked, what didn't, and where performance started to break down. That could be creative fatigue, budget inconsistency, targeting issues, or measurement gaps. So once you know the root cause, you can start rebuilding your audience pools through traffic and engagement activity. The goal here is to fix the issues first and then rebuild on stronger foundations. Finally, if you're an always on advertiser, your job is different than the other two because your job is to scale and to optimize what you already have. So start with an honest audit. Which campaigns are actually working? Which ad groups are dragging budget? Are you seeing creative fatigue? And then refresh. So update your catalog, bring in new creatives, rebuild your retargeting audiences if you've already been running from the same parameter for months. And then finally, strengthen your structure. So we often see experienced advertisers with overcomplicated setups that fragments their data and their budget. So just simplify. But for all advertisers, pre-testing is how you protect your Q4 investment. This calendar shows you just how many high volume moments exist before Q4 even starts. Back to school, Halloween, over the summer, different autumn moments, all of these can be your testing grounds. So use them to prove which setups, audiences, and creatives deserve your heaviest investment when the festive peak season arrives. So as I mentioned, there's three different advertiser types, but they all actually lead to the exact same place. Newer returning advertisers have laid their foundations and their signals are growing, so they're ready to grow in Q4. Then we have advertisers getting inconsistent results who have diagnosed the gaps and rebuilt their audiences. They are ready to convert in Q4. And always on advertisers who have pre-tested their winners and sharpened their structures are ready to dominate in Q4. So each path is a Pinterest presence that's ready to perform when Q4 matters most. But now that you know your advertiser type, let's start with the right foundation. I'll pass it over to Craig to walk us through this.
Thanks, Kaylee. That was great. Good morning, everyone. Strong performance on Pinterest starts with strong inputs. That means your tracking is clean, your product data is accurate, and your creative is usable. And Pinterest has enough of it enough context to optimize. This is the work that makes everything else more effective later. We'll use these four pillars as our roadmap for this section. The first is measurement. Are you capturing the right signals? Second is commerce. Is your feed healthy and up to date? Third, creative. Do you have enough strong assets to work with? And fourth, optimization. Are you giving Pinterest enough context to match your products and scale performance? Let's start with measurement. Strong performance starts with clean signals. If your tracking is incomplete, your reporting will be off. Optimization then's weaker, and your retargeting pools will be smaller than they should be. For most advertisers, that means making sure that the Pinterest tag and conversions API are both live and working properly. If you're a retailer, your product catalog matters just as much because it powers shopping experiences and product delivery. So before you scale anything for Q4, make sure that these basics are in place. A healthy feed helps Pinterest to show the right product with the right information to the right shopper. Here's a feed health checklist to use after today. When you get these right, your feed health and event quality score will follow. So, product titles. Are they descriptive and do they include relevant festive keywords? Descriptions. Are they updated and accurate? Your images. They need to be high quality, correctly sized, and on brand. Pricing. Does it match the pricing on your website? Your URLs. Do they all resolve without any errors? And lastly, inventory. Are any out of stock items suppressed? Before you create anything new, start by taking stock of what you already have. Your best performers from Instagram, TikTok, email, and your website are your starting point. Ask yourself three questions. Does it fit Pinterest style? Can it be reformatted easily? And does it feel inspiring and clear? In most cases, you already have most of what you need. The opportunity is to resize it or refresh it and make it feel native to Pinterest. Use a 2 by 3 vertical format. Keep your visuals clean, let the pin title and description do the explanatory work, and remove any platform specific watermarks. Efficient creative readiness, not a production overhaul. Here's something that's easy to overlook but makes a big difference: your pin metadata. This is your pin title, description, and the board that you save it to are all signals. Pinterest uses to understand your content and serve it to the right people. A pin titled Red Dress reaches a very different audience from one titled Red Festive Party Dress for women for less than £75. So be specific. Use the language that your audience actually searches for, and organise your boards around festive themes, festive gift ideas, Christmas home decor, or Black Friday deals. These aren't just organisational labels, they're targeting levers. On Pinterest, creative does more than capture attention. It also helps to guide targeting. Pinterest Performance Plus uses visual search technology to read your pin's content. So that's the image, the title, the description, and automatically serve it to the most relevant users. This means that the quality and specificity of your creative directly determines who sees your ads. Aim for 10 or more diverse assets so that the algorithm has enough to work with. Once your foundation is in place, automation can help you to scale more efficiently. Pinterest Performance Plus brings together bidding, budgets, targeting, and creative tools to simplify your campaign management. It works best when the inputs are strong, meaning clean signals, a healthy feed, and quality creative. For lean teams in particular, that can be a major advantage because it reduces the manual work while still supporting performance. The key point here is that automation is most effective when the groundwork is already done. Everything that we've covered so far only helps if you act at the right time. Your foundation, creative path, all need a launch plan behind them. This section is where we turn strategy into action. So we've just looked closely at what it means to build your foundation. You now know exactly what your specific goal is as you head into Q4. Whether you are building a new foundation, rebuilding after inconsistent results, or scaling an always-on strategy. The good news is that while your starting points might be different, your timeline is exactly the same. We have 3 paths, but one shared destination. We are going to take a look at the universal best practices that apply to everyone here today, starting with our first pillar: when to launch. We'll walk through the exact 3-phase calendar you need to follow so that your specific strategy actually has the time to build algorithmic momentum. So, a strong campaign that is launched too late can still struggle. Late launches usually mean higher competition, weaker learning, and smaller warm audiences. Earlier campaigns give you time to build signal, optimize creative, and create retargeting pools before peak. That is why getting started early is not optional. It is a performance advantage. The simplest way to plan Q4 is in 3 windows. First, prep for peak season. Second, test and learn before costs spike. Third, grow based on what is already working. Every action from here should fit into one of these 3 windows. If you are here, this is your chance to get ahead of the competition and build your confidence before peak traffic hits. I'm not going to read this slide line by line, but I am going to tell you exactly what your outputs need to be for phase 1. First, check you have your plumbing. Audit your event quality score and feed health today so that you don't discover a broken feed in November. Next, test your festive promotions right now. Run a low budget campaign while the auction is cheap so that you know exactly which discount or offer your shoppers can actually click on. Third, start building your warm audience pools so that you have a high you have a highly qualified list ready to retarget when peak season hits. And finally, plug your products into the Pinterest Trends tool so that you know exactly when your category is going to spike. By focusing on these four pillars, you're you, by focusing on these four outputs right now, you are buying yourself cheaper data and building the exact foundation that you need to confidently scale your budgets in Q4. When we say test and learn, we mean that we want you to have a testing ground. We highly recommend picking one specific late summer moment, such as a back to school season or Halloween, and treating it as your dress rehearsal. So use this specific moment to test two or three creative themes or promotional offers. And if you learn exactly how your audience reacts during the lower stakes moments, such as a back to school season, you'll know exactly which levers to pull when Black Friday hits. One important thing to remember is that new campaigns do need time to learn. So results may fluctuate at first while the system finds what is working. But if you spread your budget across too many small campaigns, you make that harder. So the same is true if budgets are too low to generate enough signal. So this is another reason to launch earlier and keep the structure simpler than you think. You want campaigns entering peak with the learning already behind them. Now, you spent late summer testing, learning, and gathering your data. Now we arrive at phase three, October and beyond. This is where we grow, convert, and win. So to win in Q4, you need algorithmic momentum. And here is how you build it. Activate early. Turn on your full optimized campaign structure in October. This gives your campaigns a crucial learning window to stabilize before the massive amounts of festive season traffic surges. Pre-launch your biggest moments. You must launch your Black Friday and Cyber Monday campaigns no later than late October. If you wait until November to start these, you are starting completely cold during the most expensive competitive auction period of the year. Let your campaigns warm up while costs are still relatively low. And finally, let's talk about scaling. When peak season hits and you see a campaign performing brilliantly, human nature tells you to double the budget overnight. Don't do this. You need to scale your winning budgets gradually. Try doing it in sort of increments, maybe 20, 30%. If you make massive sudden budget jumps, you'll force the Pinterest algorithm to completely reset its learning phase, which will then disrupt the very performance that you were trying to capitalize on. So be patient, scale steadily, and let the algorithm do the heavy lifting for you. So we've established exactly when you need to act, you know your specific path, and you have your three-phase timeline to build algorithmic momentum before that Q4 peak. But here is the reality. Having the perfect timeline won't matter if your campaigns are built poorly. If you remember back to our test and learn phase, we talked about the importance of gathering clean data and strong algorithmic signals. The only way Pinterest can process those signals is if your campaigns are structured correctly from the inside out. That brings us to our second pillar of turning our strategy into action, how to structure your campaigns. We're going to look under the bonnet at the exact architecture you need to use so that when you do launch, your budget is focused, your learnings are clear, and the algorithm can easily scale your success. So every Pinterest campaign is built on a strict hierarchy designed to keep your strategy organized and effective. First, think of the ad account as your home base. It houses your billing details, your permissions, and your aggregate data and reporting. After that, you have three important components that sit inside the ad account. The campaign sets the objective. The ad group is where you define the audience, budget, and the delivery settings. And the ad is the creative that the customer actually sees. So for most of you, this simple hierarchy is all you need to understand in order to build a clean, manageable campaign. Before you build anything, start with one question. What is the campaign supposed to achieve? That answer should shape everything else. A sales campaign should not be structured the same way as an awareness campaign. One clear objective keeps budget focused and makes success easier to manage. If your objective is fuzzy, the structure usually does get messy too. So once your objective is clear, the next step is measuring it the right way. This is important because campaigns often get judged against the wrong outcome. If your goal is awareness, focus on reach or video metrics instead. If your goal is sales, focus on conversion metrics such as CPA or ROAS. So clear KPI alignment makes optimization much easier and helps teams to make better decisions faster. When building out your campaign architecture, it is so tempting to create a highly complex setup with dozens of hyper-specific ad groups. Please don't do this. Too much segmentation splits your budget too thin. When your budget is fragmented, your ad groups cannot gather enough data, which ultimately dilutes and slows down the algorithm's learning process. Instead, our golden rule is to consolidate before you segment. If you are not sure how to organize your audiences, always start broad. A simpler, consolidated structure funnels your budget into fewer places, which creates much clearer, faster insights. Let the algorithm do the heavy lifting for you to find your buyers first. You can always split things out later, but you should only segment your campaigns when you have the data and proof that doing so will actually help your performance. So far, we have built your timeline and we've established a clean, streamlined campaign architecture. You now have a structure that is designed to capture clean data and help the algorithm to learn. But a perfect campaign structure is essentially a high-performance engine. It still needs the right fuel to run. So in Q4, that fuel is your audience. If you point your perfectly structured campaigns at the wrong people, or if you try to spread your budget too thin across everyone on the internet at once, you will exhaust your budget before you ever see a return. That brings us to our final pillar of action, who to prioritize. Because your Q4 budget is finite, we need to organize your targeting based on readiness. We're going to look at a 3-tier framework that shows you exactly how to categorize your audiences, from your most loyal existing customers down to brand new prospects. So you know exactly where to put your first pounds for maximum impact. These are the 3 tiers. Now let's go through each one. So tier 1 is your highest intent audience and usually your most valuable one. These are the people who already know your business, existing customers or site visitors. Perhaps they've been product viewers or basket abandoners. They're closest to conversion. So this is where you can use more direct messages, such as limited time offers, bundles, or some kind of reminding message. If you're preparing for Q4, this is also the audience that is worth building now through your Pinterest tag and conversions API that we talked about earlier. Tier 2 is your warm audience. These are people that they know you, but they're not yet ready to buy. They need more context or more reasons to kind of come back. This is where creative, such as use cases, gift guides, seasonal lifestyle content tends to work really well. The goal is to move them from consideration into stronger intent. And then tier 3, this is your prospecting audience. These are people who have not interacted with your brand yet. Because this audience is colder, creative matters even more. You need to make your message clear quickly. This is also the tier where you should do the most testing because you're still learning what resonates with new potential customers. Think of this as your growth engine for future demand. Once you look across all 3 tiers, the goal is balance, not putting all your budget in one place. For many e-commerce and retail advertisers, most budget should stay in always-on sales campaigns. Smaller portions can go to reaching new audiences and growing future demand. And a focused portion should support key seasonal spikes, such as Cyber 5 and Christmas. This kind of mix supports both short-term performance and your long-term growth as well. I'm now going to pass over to Josie. She's going to talk about turning strategy into action and devising your Q4 action plan.
Thank you, Craig. That was awesome. And good morning, everyone. So now let's talk about formats and creative strategy. Pinterest gives you several powerful ad formats, and the right choice depends on your objective, your audience tier, and where you are in the Q4 timeline. So let's walk through the key options and when to use each one. Pinterest Performance Plus is our most recommended format for the test and learn phase. If you're on path 1, that's a new advertiser, or path 2, which is an advertiser looking to unlock more consistent results, or starting your test and learn phase 2 September testing, this is where to begin. Pinterest Performance Plus is an automated AI-driven campaign type that simplifies your setup, so you don't need to manually configure every targeting parameter. You define your conversion goal, upload your creative, and set your budget, and Pinterest system optimizes towards your best customers. It's the most efficient way to teach the algorithm while minimizing risk. Launching a Pinterest Performance Plus campaign is a huge time saver. There are 50% fewer inputs required to create a campaign. So in other words, the number of setup steps are cut in half. And here's the data. Advertisers using Pinterest Performance Plus see on average a 20% improvement in CPA and CPC versus business as usual Pinterest campaigns. So here's your first scaling solution, your product catalog. Most brands already have a catalog with hundreds or thousands of products, each with professional product photography. Performance Plus creative optimizations can take those products and automatically turn them into shopping and collection ads. For conversion campaigns in phase 3, shopping ads should be your lead format, especially for tier 1 and tier 2 audiences. When someone searches festive gifts for mum under £50, your shopping ad can appear with the right product, the right price, and a direct path to purchase. So this is the multiplier effect in action. Your creative team photograph 500 products once. Performance Plus turns those into thousands of ad variations, different product combinations, different layouts, different formats. The system will then analyze which combinations perform the best and will serve those most often. The result, you're getting a 10% lower cost per click while testing creative at scale. That would be impossible to do manually. And your creative team didn't have to produce a single new asset. Some advertisers will focus on efficient formats that drive traffic or conversions. But for brands with a larger awareness push, there is also a premium option that's worth knowing about. Premier Spotlight is Pinterest premium awareness format, designed for brands that want to own attention during a major seasonal moment. So if your goal is broad visibility ahead of peak shopping periods such as Black Friday or Christmas, this format will really help you to put your brand front and center. It offers exclusive, high visibility placement on either the home feed or the search page for a full day, which makes it especially useful for things like launches, tentpole events, or priority festive pushes. Think of it as a way to build reach and momentum early before lower funnel campaigns do the work of converting demand. It's not the right fit for every advertiser, especially if the budget is tight, but for brands making a larger Q4 awareness investment, it can be a strong way to stand out when competition is at its highest. As a creative strategist, I know that the best campaign structure in the world underperforms with weak creative. The more diverse assets you give the algorithm to work with, the better it can find the right creative for the right shopper at the right moment. Aim for 10 or more assets per campaign. Lead with inspiration and let Pinterest Performance Plus do the testing at scale. And document your learnings after every campaign so that your Q4 strategy is built on real data, not just assumptions. Next, we'll cover how to measure all of this accurately so that you can optimize with confidence. So we've covered off the strategy, timing, structure, and creative plan. So now let's turn all of that into an action plan that you can actually use. This final section is about 3 things. First, how to measure Pinterest in a way that reflects how shoppers really buy. Second, how to diagnose and scale performance without breaking what's already working. And third, what to do in the next 7 to 30 days so that you enter Q4 with a real plan. So in Q4, your customers don't shop in silo. If they're anything like me, they're bouncing between search engines, social feeds, and their email inbox before they finally buy. Because the festive shopping journey is so fragmented, having accurate measurement is the only way that you can confidently allocate your budget. If your attribution window is too short or you rely purely on last click measurement, you completely lose visibility into which channels actually did the heavy lifting to introduce your product and drive that conversion. You end up flying blind and cutting your budget from platforms that are actually working. That is why you need to expand your attribution window to match how long your customers actually take to decide. So choose an attribution window that aligns with your measurement source of truth. When your windows are aligned with actual shopping behavior, you know exactly which platforms are driving your results, allowing you to confidently scale what you're spending where it matters the most. Once measurement and attribution is set up correctly, the next step is knowing how to read what you're seeing. When something underperforms, resist the urge to change everything at once. If you change creative, audience, bid, and budget all at the same time, you'll actually never know what helped. Use this framework instead. If you have high impressions but low CTR, that usually points to creative. Strong CTR but weak conversions usually points to the audience or landing page. And if the conversions are not recording, start with your Pinterest tag and conversion API. Diagnose first and then adjust one variable at a time. Once you know what's working, the next step is to scale without disrupting performance. The temptation is to immediately pour budget into a winner, but that often backfires. Large changes can reset learning and create unnecessary volatility. Instead, increase budgets gradually. Give the system time to stabilize and then evaluate again. You can also expand by testing strong creative with the next audience tier instead of rebuilding everything. This is where all that earlier work pays off. The more learning you built before peak, the safer scaling becomes. Now, let's turn to your strategy in that near-term plan. In the next 7 days, focus on readiness and prioritization. Make sure that your measurement is working. Audit your feed if you use a catalog. Pull together the creative that you already have instead of starting from scratch. Then confirm where you're starting from. Are you launching, fixing, or scaling? Finally, choose the first Q4 moment that you want to plan for and confirm the main objective for that campaign. If you do those things this week, you'll move from vague planning into real working setup. And then over the next 30 days, your job is to move from setup into live learning. Launch a campaign that starts building signal and warm audiences. Test a small number of creative themes so that you know which resonates before peak. Make sure attribution reflects your category and buying cycle. And build your Q4 moment calendar so you know what is launching, when, and why. For advertisers with enough spend and campaign volume, this is also the right time to block a mid-September review to decide what to scale, what to cut, and what budget to put behind each Q4 moment. The goal of the next 30 days is not perfect performance. It's about learning enough to make smarter Q4 decisions. As we wrap up today's session, let's quickly review the top 5 takeaways you need to win Q4 on Pinterest. First, you need to influence the full decision journey. Make sure you map your campaigns to the unique discover, decide, and do shopper mindset that you can capture your audience early in their planning process. Second, remember that timing is the multiplier. You should be building your foundation now so you can start to gather essential learnings through that late summer testing. Third, make sure you protect your reporting. Secure clean signals by taking the time to audit your conversions API, your Pinterest tag, and your product catalog. Fourth, consolidate to accelerate. It's better to run fewer, well-funded campaigns so that the Pinterest algorithm can learn and stabilize faster. And finally, let automation scale your results. Lean into Pinterest Performance Plus to seamlessly optimize your budgets, targeting, and creative assets as well. Following these 5 steps will set you up for a highly successful holiday season. Thanks again for joining us today. Before we finish up, we would love your feedback. You can do this by scanning the QR code that's on the screen right now, and that will take you to complete a short survey. And as a little gift for everyone who fills it in, you'll receive a guide to take away to help with those planning moments. We'll also send a follow-up email with the recording, the slides, and additional resources as well. But with a bit of time left, Kaylee's going to kick off our Q&A and answer the first questions.
Thanks, Chelsea. Okay, so one of the first questions that we got from one of you when you were registering is, what is the best setup for acquiring new customers in Q4? So in this deck, at the beginning, we outlined 3 paths. So that's really the first thing that you need to do. Choose which path you're on. So as a reminder, you're either building. So if you're a new or returning advertiser, rebuilding, if you've been seeing inconsistent results, or scaling, which is always on. And then you want to align your setup to that state. And then what you can do is think in three tiers of audiences. So tier one are your existing customers and high intent visitors. Then tier two, warmer engagers like pin savers and video viewers. And finally, tier three, which is completely new prospects. So from there, structure and audiences are going to do the heavy lifting. So we recommend that you keep your campaign structure simple, one clear objective per campaign, and really only as many ad groups as you really need so that, like Josie said, your budget isn't fragmented and your budget, the algorithm can actually learn and then stabilize. Because in Q4, what you want to do is keep your structure simple and consolidated, so fewer, better funded campaigns, and then balance the budget across the tiers so that you're both capturing near-term conversions and then at the same time continuously acquiring new prospects too.
Thanks, Kaylee. Yeah, hi guys. One of the other questions we've got come in was, what's the best way to convert Pinterest customers and direct them to your website to purchase? So, we covered this in some of the slides, but some of the things worth considering are start with clean measurement. So, as I said, implement that Pinterest tag plus the conversions API and a healthy product catalog feed so that the system can see and optimize any real checkouts that are coming through. You can also use Pinterest Performance Plus catalog sales or conversion campaigns to automatically match your products and creatives to those high intent shoppers, and it will send them straight through to the right product or collections page on your website. And then prioritize tier one and tier two audiences, right? So when we went through that tier pyramid, so that's the existing customers, site visitors, cart abandoners, or your video viewers with those clear action-orientated creative and strong landing pages. And then you can expand out to tier three prospecting once those are working really well for you. So yeah, hopefully that clears that one up.
Fabulous. And then another question that we got was, how can Pinterest help cut through that peak noisy period? So I'd say the first thing to remember is that Pinterest isn't just a noisy feed, isn't just another noisy feed. People actually come here to plan with intent. So they're actively collecting ideas, comparing options, and then shortlisting what to buy as well. Pinners say that the platform helps them to make decisions at every stage of that sales and festive journey. So in Q4, that obviously really matters because you're showing up as a solution while people are still deciding. So brands that win don't just appear on Black Friday. Like we've said before, they start early. They use Pinterest trends to get in front of early planners and to inform their decision making, and then move them through with that unique kind of discover, decide, and do mindset that pinners have on the platform. So when you layer that mindset with formats like Pinterest Performance Plus, which of course help to do some of the heavy lifting for you, you really start to cut through the noise by being super contextually useful and relevant and not just louder. And then as a final question that we had submitted, what's your top tip for driving organic impressions as a brand on Pinterest? So I've actually got two. Treat your creative and metadata as targeting, like we spoke about earlier. And then, of course, make sure you join a business community for updates as well. So on Pinterest, things like your image, your pin title, your description, and even the board you save to are all become signals that help us understand who to show you to. So instead of something broad like gift ideas, publish maybe, eco-friendly stocking fillers under 20%, £20, sorry, on a board. Practically, also on a creative kind of visual scale, think about consistent 2x3 vertical pins, clean on-brand imagery, and saving everything into those clearly themed seasonal boards as well. So when brands do that consistently, they become the most relevant and most inspirational answers to the things that people are searching for on Pinterest. And I'll hand back to Craig to close us out.
Yeah, thanks, Josie. Thank you all so much for coming today. We appreciate your time joining us on this webinar. Hopefully you found it useful, and we will share the follow-ups and recordings post the webinar. So yeah, thank you so much. Goodbye.